And welcome to week 4 of our NFL podcast at Smash Loading Football. And I'm here with our UK-based journalist, Conor Perrott, to talk everything NFL and preview Thursday Night Football. And Conor, how are you getting on?
Doing good, thanks. For like I say, already at that quarter mark. It's going fast, but it's been enjoyable.
Yeah, I can't believe how fast the last few weeks have gone. And we're on to week 5 already, almost a quarter way through the full season, you think, when you include the Super Bowl and the playoffs. So at this juncture, let's kind of talk about who are our surprise teams and which teams have kind of shocked us in a good and bad way throughout the season so far. So, Conor, I'm going to start with you. Who's been your surprise package of the season so far?
Yeah, there's been a few teams that have surprised me, but I'm going to go with the Houston Texans. They've been a team that has been fighting mainly at the top of the drafts the last couple years and have been rolling through head coaches. But this year it kind of feels like they might have it right. They've started the season 2-2. They're one of the better 2-2 teams as well, and it's really been their offense that has surprised me the most. You know, the last few years with David Mills at quarterback, it's been bottom of the league stuff, but they've gone out, they've got CJ Stroud at the top of the draft, and things have been firing on all cylinders. You know, they're 14th in DVLA on offense, which is a league average, but that's still incredible to what they've happened in the last few years. So really it's them that have surprised me the most.
And what is it about CJ Stroud's game that you think has, brought this Texans offense along?
Yeah, he's been at the forefront of it really, and as a rookie, that's really what you want to see, especially 4 games into a season. You know, he's had an injured offensive line, he's had an inconsistent running game, but his little wide receiver partner Nico Collins, a third round draft pick from last year, a former Michigan man, which is a bit controversial for a guy like Stroud. They've gotten on really well. I think Nico Collins is actually 5th in the league for receiving yards, which is incredible in itself for a Texans team. And Tank Dell as well. That's another name there, a rookie that has gotten on, started really well. So Stroud, he's been a guy that he's not been playing play action, which is QB friendly. He's had to make throws and he's doing it. And the offense, and I'm sure head coach D'Amico Ryans are over the moon with him.
Yeah, he's looking like a superstar in the making. One thing I really like about him is, his poise under pressure. One thing I noticed when they played the Georgia in the national semi-finals last year was how much times Jalen Carter had put him under pressure, and he continued to make good decisions and make accurate throws. And I think when you have a quarterback who's most dangerous staying in the pocket, I think that really kind of separates the top guys from kind of the guys who get outside the pocket and can do a little bit of damage. So, Conor, what do you think of the Texans' defense? That they've a lot of young talent. Last year there was Jalen Petrie was one of the standout rookies of the 22 season. Christian Harris came into the team, and the Alabama linebacker, and Derek Stingley Jr. was the 3rd overall pick, who looked good when he was on the field, but seems to be injured quite a lot. Do you think this will be a strength of their team going forward?
Yeah, I think again similar to the offense, it's really caught on quick. You know, D'Amico Ryans, he's from a defensive background, so you know that's what his forte and what is going to get better with time. Will Anderson, a big draft pick from Alabama, he's gotten on well. He's got a sack already, which is always what you want to see. So yeah, I'm happy with how the defense has been going. It's like you say, a lot of young players on that side of the ball, and it's only gradually going to get better, especially with as the system Ryan in places gets better.
And do you think that they're a good shout to win the AFC, considering they beat their biggest challengers at the weekend?
Yeah, I mean, there's still a long way to go. I think obviously there's a team in there that's on my shock, so we'll get into a bit later. But yeah, I think the Colts as well. They've surprised me as well. So I definitely think there's 3 and maybe even 4 teams fighting for that division, which is anything can happen in that case.
And I will get on to my surprise of the season so far. I was considering going with the Arizona Cardinals because I really didn't think they would be competitive. And I like the way they're playing. They're kind of playing really playing with their heart. But I decided instead to go with the LA Rams. I didn't think the LA Rams were going to be competitive. They were so poor last season. They couldn't keep Matt Stafford standing up. and Matt Stafford is playing as well as he's ever played, I think, through 4 weeks of the season. And they've done it with a lot of young talent on offense. Paka Nakua.
Puka Nuka.
Puka Nakua. I'm still getting used to his name, but he's been sensational. I mean, he's kind of like a Wes Welker. What Wes Welker was for Tom Brady, he kind of has been for Matt Stafford, and they still have Cooper Kupp to come back. I mean, that offense could be electric when you think that one of those guys will be double teamed and the other one probably won't. And I think Tutu Atwell gives him that, with his pace, gives him that shot over the top as well. So I think there could be a really, really exciting offense going forward. And Kyrian Williams, the running back, has really, really surprised me as well. He is somebody that has kind of taken to that role. And they were a team that had no teeth in offense last season. And this season they've been great to watch. And they still have Aaron Donald on defense as well.
Mm-hmm.
And he is playing. He's played absolutely brilliant at the moment. What have you made of the Rams so far?
Yeah, I mean, I've been surprised as you were there. It kind of felt like everyone sort of started writing them off and assuming that they were going to go into this big rebuild. And it kind of felt that they were going to do it. They were letting big names, Jalen Ramsey, go left, right, and center. And you kind of thought, if they admit in defeat, is Sean McVay like going to be gone at the end of the season into broadcast? But the offense it's been amazing. It's missing its best weapon in Cooper Kupp. The defense is still nice as well. So I think there's some big teams in that NFC West, the 49ers, Seattle, so it's going to be tough for them. But yeah, they can definitely maybe push for a wild card with ways things going, and if Cooper Kupp hits the ground running.
Yeah, another player another rookie that's actually kind of stood out is Steve Velia, the guard. I think he was a Arkansas Razorback. You know, he's a real, real tough center coming out of the draft, and they're kind of playing him at guard, and he's really kind of helped solidify the line. They've got so much young talent, and with letting the likes of Jalen Ramsey go and Matt Stafford, I think he's only about 40 million. They're actually going to go from one of the teams with the worst cap casualties to being it's been a pretty good decision heading into next year's draft, where they can probably bring in a couple of free agent players to help them with their team. So let's go to the other side. Who are the teams that have shocked you or with their performances so far, from what you expected coming into the season?
Yeah, I think my team that I've personally gone with is the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm staying in the AFC South. I think they're not been bad whatsoever, really. They're 2-2, but for my expectations, I kind of thought that they would be better at this point. I've looked at them and you really thought, I know the Texans and Colts have done better than what people expected, but they really... I think everyone thought after last season, getting that playoff win against the Chargers, that they were going to take this division by storm. And it now seems like a bit of a fight up there. I think the offense personally has not really been good enough for what's been there. And a lot of it, skill position wise, has stayed healthy as well. I think Trevor Lawrence was this QB that was going to be generational and everything. And he's in his third year and he's done very well by any means. But I'm expecting a bit more from him, and he still has those times when he maybe makes the odd mistake and turns the ball over in critical situations, which can't happen from a generation and an elite quarterback. Calvin Ridley as well, it's been a bit weird. He started week 1 against the Colts, amazing, and he felt like Trevor Lawrence has got this number 1 receiver now, and every single game he's got less and less targets, which is a bit confusing itself. So I completely understand they're coming off a win in London against the Falcons, and it was a pretty comfortable win as well. But I'm sort of expecting, at least now, for them to kick on and to be potentially a 10-win team, and they haven't looked like it this start of the season.
Yeah, last season they started off very, very poorly, and it was a loss in London against the Broncos that seemed to turn their season around. Kind of hit rock bottom and came back. And I wonder if when they return they have another game in London next weekend, whether they can return with a bit more form coming into the middle of the season. But I think I'm surprised that you picked the Jacksonville Jaguars, but I think you argued your point well. In terms of me, I'm going to go with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And again, it's because I had such high expectations of them coming into this season. Last year, their biggest weakness was their offensive line and not being able to run the ball. They brought in Isaac Semalu from the Philadelphia Eagles, and their first pick in the draft was Broderick Jones, and they still haven't been able to run the ball. That is really, really kind of hamstringing their offense. And I know Matt Canada, the offensive coordinator, is getting all the brunt of the blame. But when you can't run the ball in the NFL, and what they were hoping to do was have a strong running game and get Kenny Pickett to kind of be a play action specialist. And when you don't have a run game, that really hasn't come in. One of the players that has actually been very disappointing is Najee Harris at running back. He's a player I hold in really high esteem. And he seemed to be playing injured last year. And I was expecting a real bounce back year this year. But he seems to have lost a bit of acceleration from his rookie season. And I think that has also been holding the team back. And their defense has been outstanding. I still put the Steelers in the top 2 or 3 defenses in the league. But a defense can only carry a team so much. But I still hold hope that they might be able to turn it around. What do you think yourself?
Yeah, it's like you say, that offense is really not clicked to start the year. And Kenny Pickett, even, we don't know how serious the injury is. It might not be bad at all, but he went down in last week's game as well. So Mitch Trubisky might be that quarterback going forward, and that ain't going to make things any better. But like you say, with Najee Harris, he looks a shadow of himself from that rookie year. He was amazing at Alabama and had a great rookie year, but he's gradually getting worse and worse, really. And I think he even split the snaps with Jalen Wardle as well in the backfield. So he's not even really being that lead back which you want out of him anymore. So George Pickens, he's looked good, but you need the guy throwing in the ball to also be good, and things haven't clicked on that front. So there's promise there with Pickens, but yeah, they definitely need to get a lot better there.
I still hold a little bit of hope for them, considering their defense is so good. But Kenny Pickett hasn't played well. That's for certain. So let's get on to Thursday Night Football. The Bears are visiting the Commanders in a rematch of probably one of the worst Thursday Night Football games last season. It was a really, really poor game last year. But both teams need to win, especially the Bears. The Bears are 4 losses in a row to open the season. And I think that's 14 games without a win going into last season.
Yeah.
What's going on? I mean, there's a lot of talent on this. There's a lot of talent on this roster, both on offense and on defense. Where do you think the weaknesses are? Why do you think the Bears have been so poor?
Yeah, I mean, they're a divisional rival to me, so I'm more than happy to see them suffer like this. But I think really the issue with them isn't one person or one player or anything. It's really a collective. It feels like everyone above is just keep on making mistakes. In my opinion, I think you can look from top to bottom and go look at the GM Ryan Poles, look at the head coach, and even look at the offense. They're constantly making poor mistakes, and I think the thing that they've not done right is build around Justin Fields. This is a quarterback with a load of potential, and he's not hitting it, and it kind of feels like they've not put enough around him. And this was something that I was very mentioning a lot in off season. I think people went, oh, they've given him DJ Moore, they've given him Darnell Wright in the draft, even an offensive lineman or two in off free agency, but it wasn't enough for me. This one receiver is not enough for Fields to take this, if we're being honest, bottom of the league stuff to the top, which he can be. So defense, they're okay. I think they invested the money wrongly in linebacker, which we can get more into, but really it's a collective decision for me.
Let's talk about the linebackers. They brought in TJ Edwards from the Eagles, and they brought in Tremaine Edmonds from the Bills. Why do you think that was the wrong area to target?
I think both players are very good, and that Tremaine Edmonds was a player that I really, really like at linebacker. I think he's one of the best in the league, but at the end of the day, I think it's down to the position just not being that valued. The D-line especially is one of the worst units in the NFL, and not just like D-line, like out of all the units in the NFL, I would say the Bears D-line's one of the worst. So it's all good having these really fancy linebackers, but if the D-line's doing absolutely nothing, then the linebackers' jobs just get impossible. So there's pieces in the secondary, and and everything for them in Jaquan Brisket and Eddie Jackson at safety and Kyler Gordon in the corner spot. But that D line needs to get sorted out, and this defense isn't going to turn around until it does.
I don't know. I agree. I think last weekend they were playing the Broncos, and I do think they only got 1 sack on Russell Wilson, a team that wasn't playing with any confidence coming into last weekend. And I think he had 75% completion rate, so he was getting time in the pocket. And I agree, this is the biggest problem on this Bears defense is Bears team is their D line. I actually think they addressed the O line pretty well in terms of they brought in Nate Davis from the Titans, their first round pick. Darnell Wright has played well, and they're about to get their best offensive line player from last season, Jenkins, back from injured reserve. I think he's back this week, so they should be able to run the ball a lot better. But on offense, I think one of the big problems they did the same thing last year was last year they wanted Justin Fields to stand in the pocket and throw, and when they lost a few games, they started to tailor the game plan around him running with the ball, and it really got the best out of him. Do you think we could see a similar approach against Washington on Thursday Night Football? Because him standing in the pocket is not really his game. He kind of needs a game plan, kind of like what the Ravens do with Lamar Jackson, in terms of letting him use his legs to pick up first downs, to kind of make breaks. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, off the back of the game, Denver, he actually he was in the pocket quite a lot, threw the ball 35 times and only had 4 rushing attempts. But again, they still lost the game there. I think for really the problems with the Bears, it's kind of like Fields can do it with his legs, and that's where he's best at. But is that sustainable for a quarterback
Yeah.
over the course of a season? It can't be, and like I think we saw that last year. He had these incredible games where he just constantly kept using his legs, but towards the end he was getting beaten up, and they missed him towards the end of the season. So I think it's hard for them because it's you want to use him the best for using their legs, but they don't have the pieces around him to also help in the passing game. So if you're just constantly using his legs, he's going to get hit, and that's not what you want your quarterback to be getting.
In the games I've seen him play, I think he throws the ball. I think he's got a good arm. I think he throws the ball accurately. I think he tries to throw it into too many small windows at times, and he could probably improve in terms of his anticipation. He doesn't seem to throw wide receivers into space. It's more like he's trying to fit it in. But he is a talent, and I again, he's one of the most exciting players in the league to watch. And when he's on a good day, and he was on a good day last Sunday, he actually played really, really well. I think he started for 16. I think he threw over almost 300 yards in the first half and had 3 touchdowns. So he was playing well. So I don't really want to come down too hard on him. I think there's bigger issues on the team, but also bigger issues off the field. How hot is the seat under Matt Eberflus? And what did you make of Chase Claypool being given the Jaden Sancho treatment and kind of told to stay away from the team?
Yeah, I mean, it feels a bit of the mess here because Eberflus was saying that, and then reports were coming out that the Bears told him not to. So someone's lying in that situation. So I think he will be given at least till the halfway mark. I can't see him getting fired in the next week or two, even if they go 0-5 or 0-6. So I think he's got a bit of time with him, but he certainly really hasn't shown anything inspiring with this Bears team. They're not good on offense and they're not good on defense, and if that's going to be the case for over a year, then your seat is going to be really, really hot.
Yeah, one thing about Claypool as well is if you're losing the first 4 games, it's very easy to pick on the guy who doesn't turn up, who's immature, who's getting in a row with the offensive coordinator on the side of the field, and it's a good distraction. It kind of takes the heat off Matt Eberflus for another week anyway. How do you think the Bears will match up with the Commanders? Commanders are coming off an absolutely brilliant performance at the weekend. It was a real comeback performance against probably one of the best teams in the NFC in terms of the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles, in my opinion anyway, I thought the Commanders should have won the game. I thought we were the better team, especially in the fourth quarter when we really needed to kind of come back. I thought we played really well on offense and defense. What do you make of the Commanders coming into this game?
I mean, I certainly, I really like their offense. Really, with Sam Howe, he's definitely taken that jump from. And I know he didn't play much in his rookie year, but he's
He's the
taken
one
it.
game, the last game against Dallas, and that was it.
Like I say, for a day three pick, he's second year. He's really taken a jump up. So they're looking really nice. Like I say, they've got a lot of people in the backfield in Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson in his limited snaps. There, the receivers are looking good with Terry McLaurin coming back from a little injury, and Dotson as well. I think he was a receiver that surprised me last season from Penn State. I wasn't actually too high on him in the draft process, and then I remember he came out the shots real fast. So I think there's pieces on there to be really excited about for the Commanders. But I'll let you go, Scorps. So yeah, really, I think if we go to the other side of the ball on the defense, it's hard to judge really because obviously your last game was the overtime and you're playing two tough opponents in the Bills and Eagles. But how do you make of the defense really? Because it's been a unit that has been the better of Washington's the last couple of the years, especially that D line with the guys they have up front. But the last three games they've given up 30+ points. So are you worried at all about the situation there?
I'm not really, no. I think against the Bills, our offense kind of didn't start at all, and they got a lot of field position through turnovers. But what I like about this, our defensive line is still the strength of the team. It's the unit on our team that is the best performing, especially Duran Payne. I think he's our best player on our D line. And in the last 3 weeks, Chase Young looks like he's coming back to his best that he showed in his rookie year after being out for a long time with injury. Our our defensive backs, I think, are better than they have been over the last maybe 5 or 6 years. I think we have a really, really strong and young defensive backs. Emmanuel Forbes, our first round pick, had a tough day against AJ Brown on Sunday. Cam Curl is another very young safety, and Derek Forrest. And I kind of like what they each bring to the team. Where I think the Washington are struggling on defense a little bit is at linebacker. When Ron Rivera was the head coach at the Panthers, he had Luke Kuechly at linebacker who seemed to know what the offense was doing before the ball was snapped. And I think we're lacking just that presence at linebacker. I know the linebacker isn't probably as important as he used to be in the NFL, but with Jamin Davis, he's the top probably tackler on the team, but he always seems to be reacting. He never seems to be ahead of what's going to happen on the play. And he's a very, very physical guy. He's very fast. He's a fast guy. He can get to the sides very often, but I think that's one area that the defense can improve. And what I liked about them on Sunday against the Eagles was we really stood up to the Eagles' offensive line. I mean, so many games the Eagles kind of breeze through because their offensive line are completely dominant. And I think the Washington D line really stood up to that challenge on Sunday, and it kind of exposed a bit of weaknesses in terms of how the Eagles' offense operated. What do you think about What did you think about the game against the Eagles yourself?
Yeah, I mean it was a real close games at times, and like I said, you really took it down to the wire, and that's a big divisional game that can determine a lot of things down the line. So I think you very much held your own with the Eagles. They didn't look too overwhelming at all for the quarterback Sam Howe or anyone on that offense. But at the end of the game, we have to speak about it. Really, Sam Howe drove the field late on after an AJ Brown touchdown, got a walk-off touchdown with his own. You're in Philadelphia and you elected to kick that extra point. Do you agree with Ron Rivera in that moment?
No, I think no matter what the situation, you should always go for it to win the game at the end because you have the ball in your own hands. And although Washington had been playing well, when we went to overtime, I still thought we were going to win. We were playing that well on offense. Their defense, the Eagles, our defense was playing well, and our pass rush was starting to work. But I think when you have a chance to win the game, you go and try and win the game. You put the ball in your own hands. All it takes is to lose a flip of a coin. The next thing, the other team can get the ball and drive down the field for a touchdown, and you lose the game. So I think you should always kind of go for it when you get into those situations. But you were right about Sam Howell. When the game was on the line and he needed to drive up the field, he found all his main weapons. He found Terry McLaurin, he found Curtis Samuel, he found De'Ami Brown, and then at the very end he found Jahan Dotson with a rocket of pass into the end zone. So it bodes well for the future, and I think this Washington offense could really, really open up gaps in the Chicago defense on Thursday Night Football. I think Sam Howell is going to get time in the pocket, and on the flip side, if Tevin Jenkins is back, I think we'll see a good competition because I think there's a lot of talent on the Bears offensive line. They haven't really got it together yet, but they're certainly going to come under pressure in Washington on Thursday night. I think the Washington defense is a top 10 defense in the NFL, and I think they'll prove it over the season. So, prediction time. What do you think is going to happen on Thursday Night Football?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good game. Like I say, the Bears showed promise on offense last week. So against a tough opponent now, I think they're going to be up for it. You know, despite being 0-4, that they're not going to want to continue and losing like this. So I think it'll be close, but I do think Washington, especially with their offense, I think they can really find some gaps in those Bear defense, and I think personally, I think it could be a Commanders win on hopefully a lot more exciting Thursday night football than last year's.
I think it's going to be an exciting game. There's strengths and weaknesses on both teams, but I agree with you. I think the Washington defense will try and contain Justin Fields, try and keep him in the pocket, and I think the Washington offense is going to put up a few touchdowns. I think Dotson and McLaurin, if they're left 1-on-1 with anybody, they have the talent to be one of the best wide receiver tandems in the NFL, and I think we'll see that on Thursday night. Mm-hmm. I'm going with Commanders win. I'm feeling confident. It doesn't happen that often, but yeah, I think it'll be a good game, and I think the Commanders will come out on top. So that's it for another week. Conor will have a chat again later in the week when we preview Monday Night Football and some of the Sunday games. Mm-hmm. So thank you for a chat again and your analysis, and talk to you later in the week.
As always, some big games on the weekend, so there's still a lot more in store.
Right. See you.
See you.